here's Brody Brazil.
Here on the YouTube channel, we've obviously spent a lot of time across the last several months covering the emergence of the Orlando Dreamers. And it was very much in sync with the uncertainty of the Rays. What was that team in Tampa going to do? Sell or move or not sell or whatever. But the Dreamers obviously made themselves known, who they are, what their intentions were, and what they're aiming to do sooner than later. And I think right now with the letters of intent that have been signed on both sides between a potential buying party and selling party of the Rays, that situation might actually happen and the team might get sold. But even that is not a certainty right now. I'll explain why in just a second. I really don't know as it relates back to Orlando. That's the point of this video. Is Orlando done? Or as the kids say, are they cooked? What exactly are their chances of effectively luring the Rays, luring expansion, getting somebody to buy the Rays and move them? Like, there are multiple scenarios here, but what exactly now are Orlando's chances? Let me remind you what the Dreamers' latest was, like at last check. I'll also give you an updated quote from Barry Larkin in just a second. They'd lined up $2.5 billion, $1 billion privately for funding the stadium. It's obviously going to cost a lot more than that. And another $1.5 billion to buy a team or pay an expansion fee or however they needed to do this. They've already committed to or committed with investors for those certain amounts. The Dreamers also, though, had said that they were not in talks with Rays owner Stuart Sternberg. Now, obviously, there's a letter of intent with somebody who's negotiating a deal with the Rays right now. More on that in a second. There's also been another party that's come out to say that this person had made a cash offer to the Rays for buying the team. So two parties are known to have been talking to Sternberg and the Rays. Here's a party in the Dreamers who, whether they were truthful or not, said that they've had no talks directly with Stuart Sternberg about potentially buying the Tampa Bay Rays. The Dreamers also had this kind of issue. They picked a plot of land on International Drive right next to SeaWorld, but they will need and don't yet have a public partnership established. And what I mean by that is they don't have the support of Orange County or its mayor or enough council members or enough politicians basically to grease the wheels on public subsidies. They don't have any of that lined up yet, or even the ability to acquire that land, which I'm pretty sure is owned by Orange County, the land they want to build on. They do have a meeting set in early July to start hammering some of these things out, but who knows, by then, maybe the Rays are officially sold to somebody else who intends to keep the team in Tampa, and all of this is kind of a lesser temperature conversation. That's the latest from the Dreamers. Also, Barry Larkin, their front man, their ambassador to baseball, said this. In terms of the Rays agreement, the exclusive agreement to try and sell the Rays, here's how Larkin responded to that. That sale agreement, does not complicate our mission, nor does it change our plans for aggressively moving forward to the next phase of our initiative. We plan to open our downtown office in the very near future, and we are laser focused on finalizing the public side of the public/private partnership. As I just said, they will have that meeting in early July with representatives of Orange County. So that's the Dreamers side of things. It obviously would take two to tango here. I don't think Major League Baseball is going to expand in Central Florida. If the Rays are in Tampa Bay, I think it's really hard that 80, 90 miles away you'd be doing an expansion team. I find that very hard to believe, and especially with a sale going through, whoever would be buying the Rays would pretty much want to make sure that you're not encroaching on the territory here, the region here. So I'll get to that in a second too. But here's the latest from the Rays side of things. They're, in quote, advanced talks with the developer Patrick Zalupski. Zalupski has got a group together that appears to be very much Tampa focused. Doesn't seem like they have any intention of moving elsewhere. It seems like they're trying to do this, trying to buy the team, trying to keep it in the Tampa Bay area region. This negotiating window, right? These advanced talks. Here's one thing about it. It's a window. We don't know when it closes. We actually don't officially know when it opened. We know that got publicized about a week ago. And a lot of people assume that, okay, well, the deal is done. They're negotiating these advanced talks. They're going to lead to a sale. I try to make it very clear on my initial YouTube video. That's all it is right now, is a talk. And it's deep in the process, and you don't publicize it unless you're serious about it. But it's not done yet. More on that in just a second, too. Tripp Miller is another individual here, right? So he's outside of this exclusive window. This has nothing to do with the Zalupski group. And again, who knows when that window expires? Could it be in days? Could it be by the end of this month? Is it a 2-week window, a 2-month window? You'd have to think it's probably shorter than it is longer. That's kind of the strategy of negotiation and a negotiating window. Tripp Miller is a Memphis hedge fund operator. You'll see his photo here in a second. He told the Orlando Sentinel that he made an all-cash bid to buy the Rays earlier in June. He said because of a non-disclosure agreement, he couldn't say who was part of his group or also when the bid was or what exactly the bid was. There's Tripp. Tripp had this quote to the Orlando Sentinel. What would Tripp do if Tripp were to be able to buy the Rays? Tripp said, quote, Orlando has a lot to offer. Now, keep in mind, this was quoted in the Orlando Sentinel. He knew who he was talking to here. We'd be very open to exploring all options in the Central Florida area. Let's face it, these two cities are roughly 80 miles apart. So here's somebody that doesn't really have an attachment to where the team goes, just wants to make the team work. Now, what does that mean for the Orlando Dreamers? Like, there is even somebody else out there who has a chance at buying this team, moving it into Orlando before you could even do anything. Tripp told The Athletic, different publication, this, quote, this is not a relocation play to another state. You won't see the Rays relocating out of Central Florida, whether it was our group or another group. So, kind of inside information, but also kind of assumed information. We could all expect that Major League Baseball will not let this team go anywhere outside of Tampa, St. Pete, or Orlando. It feels like that is where they are destined to be. And Tripp Miller is stating the obvious there for us. One more quote back to the Sentinel here. He said, quote, we've had discussions with the club prior to this exclusive period that they've been in, the other group currently right now. I believe this is far from over for everybody. Now, he's trying to also speak that into existence because if the exclusivity works out into a deal that he's not part of, then he doesn't get the chance to do this. So is that wishful thinking? Is that reality? But that is a quote. I believe this is far from over for everybody. Let the stinger hit there. I forgot that was coming. I got to do a better job at that. Here's my takeaways. Number one, so many people, and let's revisit the Rays stadium deal from more than a year ago. You know, the gas plant site. You know, the thing they were going to do next to Tropicana Field that the Rays pitched, that the city of St. Pete approved, that Pinellas County approved, then the Rays backed out of. Everybody assumed that as soon as the Rays pitched that, done deal, got their stadium. Remember the slogan? Here to stay. Well, now here to sell? And you don't know who you're selling this to, what their intention is going to be with all this. But anyway, my point is, everybody assumed that when they saw renderings, they saw here to stay, done deal, Rays are staying. Well, that totally fell apart. A hurricane was part of that. 2 hurricanes were part of that. But for a lot of other human reasons, too, that deal fell apart. Many assumed the Rays' sale or reported letters of intent to sell mean it's a done deal. Let me remind you, with this team and their history and their backstory and how they operate, nothing's done till it's actually done. So a lot of people said the other day, well, he's just covering his butt to remind us that it's not done. He doesn't want it to be done. No, I'm fine with it to be done. I'm very fine with it to be done. I'm just reminding you that it's not at that point yet. Somebody like this second group, somebody like the Dreamers could potentially still get in, even though this exclusivity window is existing right now. I do agree that Major League Baseball has no interest in moving a team outside of Central Florida. Again, I think that's an obvious statement, an obvious observation, and I totally agree with it. But I will say this in conclusion here. Multiple different groups out there as potential buyers means multiple different options of what they might do in buying this team. They really want to push for St. Pete. They really want to try and move to Tampa proper, or they're okay with testing out Orlando. Like, the Dreamers are in a tougher spot here, but Orlando still might have a way to get a team. And Stuart Sternberg, I guarantee you when it comes down to what is he negotiating? Do you think part of his deal is negotiating, well, I'll sell you the team, but are you going to keep him in Tampa Bay? Do you even think that's part of the equation? His thing is at this point, trying to get out for the maximum sale price possible, the best deal possible. I don't actually blame him for that, but here's the challenge. Whoever buys the team is going to have their intention of what to actually do with it next. I don't think he cares about that. This is the same person who considered splitting his team, the Rays, and their time between Montreal and Tampa just 4 years ago. How crazy of an idea is that, still to this day? So I don't think he cares about location as much. He's an owner. He wants to sell to the highest bidder. He doesn't care what they're going to do with it next. It's like selling a car that you've owned. For 10 years, you took care of it. And if somebody wants to give you $5,000 more for it, even though the person offering you less looks like they're honest, they'll take care of it, versus this other person who's going to drive it crazy, drive it off a cliff. Hey, you know what? Doesn't matter. Not my car anymore. Give me the $5 extra and I'm out of here. It kind of is like that, you'd have to imagine, for Stuart Sternberg. So going back to Orlando chances, not great, probably at this point, but not totally out of the picture. Are the Dreamers in a difficult spot? Yes, I still do think so. I'm going to cover the story. We'll see where it goes. I'll listen to what they're saying, but obviously now we're starting to see these multiple groups emerging. The Dreamers weren't even in communication, and maybe they should have been, or maybe they had no chance to be, but I will buy into that quote just a little bit to say that I don't think any of this Rays situation is entirely over yet. And again, I'm not rooting for that. I'm not rooting for extended drama, but it doesn't feel like this is a done deal yet. And it's not, but it also doesn't feel like that either. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Also, thumbs up before you're done with this video. It helps me, the video, and the channel grow. Also, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. You know why? Because I would definitely love to see you back here next time.